on this episode of Southern Fried Geekery.
He would like take somebody out and use them to use their powers like IRL, you know.
Yeah.
But it was just really cool. And then they had this whole thing with like an uprising. And did you just say IRL? Yes, I did.
Yes,
Actual conversation.
Yeah. So
WTF.
you're welcome.
OFG. Yeah, so like I said, we were planning to do another trade special eventually. This time Jerry will actually be a part of it.
No, I totally remember that episode where you talked about some weird, obscure, no-name comic book.
Oh, we talking about body bags? Sorry, I want a little bit of Latino representation on our Cracker Ass podcast.
Damn. Shots fired. What, are you guys want to do a podcast?
A Cracker Ass podcast? Yes, I do.
I don't want to do a Cracker Ass podcast.
We're
I want to
gonna
do
do
a
one
regular
anyway.
podcast. Well, hey everybody, welcome to episode 22 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jerry. I'm super excited about this episode, guys.
Oh, you put some work into this one. I can tell.
I've read Amazing Spider-Man 800 four
Drinking
times.
does not count as work.
And
Why is the rum gone?
listen,
Why the rub?
This episode brought to you by Kraken Rum. Please sponsor us. Give us money or free rum.
So, put the rum down at some point and go back and listen to episode 21 if you haven't had the opportunity yet. It was a Memorial Day special. The guys did a great job. I wasn't able to be here, had some stuff come up. I really wish I could have, really missed it. But listen to the episode. You guys did a wonderful job.
It was our podcast's last significant birthday.
It was
Until
pretty great.
it turned 69.
Oh, that. Why did Jack Black just pop up in my head going, that's a magic number? Go back and listen to it. It was a great time. The books you guys talked about were really, really good. Listening to you talk about them was a lot of fun. And while you're doing that, jump on social media and check us out. We are on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're kind of everywhere. And we're sharing news. We're sharing pictures. We're talking. We're engaging with people. We're trying to build a community. And it's a lot of fun. We have a great time just getting together and chit-chatting online, making it a really positive place to come up and talk about comics, talk about pop culture, talk about nerd life, all that fun stuff. And you should go like us. We're at SFG Podcast on the Instagrams and the Twitters, and we're the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast on the Facebooks. So jump in there and like us and get to be part of the conversation. It's a lot of fun. So, as always, it's been a week since you guys have gotten together. It's been 2 weeks since I've gotten to hang out with you, which kind of sucks.
I saw you briefly last Sunday. It was
Just for a smidgen.
yeah.
But as always, the world keeps turning, and there's been a lot of news that's happened in the past couple days to jump out. So, Craig, why don't you kick us off on the news?
Yeah, personally, we had some an interesting thing happen. We actually finally got our logo drawn.
Praise be.
And it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. Dusty Higgins, ran into him at Little Rock Comic Con, and he had a booth set up, and I talked to him, and he asked how the podcast was going, and I told him we're doing good, and he asked about our logo, and I said, we still haven't had anybody that's had the time. We've had people that have said they were going to do it and just haven't been able to get to it because people have busy schedules, and he said, well, my schedule freed up a little bit. I can get to it for you guys. And I said, please do. And he took Sean's initial idea and ran with it and gave us a beautiful logo from that. And one of the things I really love about our logo is that you can actually see Sean's original idea, and he didn't just take it and completely change it.
Yeah, and I want to throw this in there. Dusty did a phenomenal job bringing it to life, but
He really did.
The impetus of this whole thing came straight out of Sean's brain. It's a deep fried microphone, and I would have never thought about that. That came out of
with a bite out of it.
with a bite out of it. It's awesome, and that came out of Sean's brain. And Sean actually has been doing this really cool thing where he does a drawing a day, throwing them out on his personal feeds and on the. I think it's on our Instagram stuff sometimes as well.
I did it accidentally. I didn't switch over to mine. But, I mean, if you think the audience is interested, I'll start posting them.
I'd do it, man. I think that's awesome. They're really cool watching it. You can just see what you're doing. Doing a great job.
I'm currently, right now, I'm doing a series from the My Hero Academia anime and manga characters. But as always, I take requests. So once I start posting them onto the Southern Fried links, if you like what you're seeing, you want to see me draw something specific, just put a shout out. Let us know.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want to see more of Dusty Higgins' art, go check out his book that he did with Van Jensen. It's called Pinocchio Vampire Slayer. It's a trade paperback. It's a collected thing. You can get it at most places. It's very easily achievement unlocked. It's very accessible. Go check it out. Good stuff. Really good stuff.
It's like 4 volumes in one trade paperback. It's a great fun read. You'll love it. It's Pinocchio killing vampires with his nose. He breaks off his nose. He'll lie to get along.
Yeah, which means it means he has to lie to survive.
Yeah, he'll lie, get a long nose, break it off, and stab some vampires with it. And when it wears out, he does it again. And it's just 4 issues of Pinocchio wanting to
be a real boy.
Vampires. It's great.
Who doesn't?
Right.
He's a pretty phenomenal artist.
He really is, and he actually, I believe, he teaches art here at the University of Arkansas in Little Rock. So if you're a kid in college and you're interested in the arts, look him up and possibly invest in a collegiate career in that, or just go talk to him or something. I don't know. Dusty's awesome. That was the whole point of this. It is the first of the month, and this month in particular means a lot to me because it's Pride Month. It kicked off on the 1st, and so if you go to our Facebook pages, we're going to be sharing links to articles that talk about books that either feature LGBTQ characters or they are written by LGBTQ people, just whatever, that celebrate the diversity of life and who we are as a community. And, it's worth looking into because there's a lot of stuff done by and about people that you see every day, people like me, people who, I've said it on the podcast before, but if you're a first-time listener, out and proud gay dude, hairless bear, it's kind of who I am. But we're going to be sharing those. So to our listeners, anybody who, doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, bi, lesbian, trans, whatever, celebrate Pride Month. And we really love the diversity of the people that we know listen to our podcast. Doesn't matter who you are, who you love. We appreciate the fact that you listen, and we are glad to celebrate Pride with you.
For sure. There's some really good books that people need to.
Yeah, and like I said, we're going to be. I'm not writing any of the articles. It's sharing them because other people wax way more poetic than I do on the stuff. In other news, Marvel has been teasing a new X book, and they are being super secretive about what it is. We don't know the title. So if you look in this past month's previews, it just says X Classified. The book is entitled X Classified. It's written by X Classified. It's drawn by X Classified. The only thing we know is that there's an artist who did a variant cover that they listed that. So I have no idea if they're ending X-Men Blue, X-Men Red, X-Men Gold, if they're funneling it down, if they're making it into an X-Force book, or if they're making it into Uncanny X-Men. We don't know. But they did just release some information about it.
Sean, who's that artist? Roberto Ramos?
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't see
I
that.
thought you shared it.
No, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, that was me.
It's actually Humberto Ramos.
Yeah, Humberto.
Latino representation, Jerry.
Yeah, but so that's the big news that came out of this. We still don't know who's writing the book. We still don't know what the book is titled. We don't know who's coloring it, but we do know that Humberto Ramos is the one who is drawing this book. If you don't know Ramos, you should. His art is crazy good. The dude is bonkers. He's got more talent than he knows what to do with. You go check out his work on the first and second, I believe, arcs of Champions. He did that book with Mark Waid. You can also go see his work on the Extraordinary X-Men that he did with another guy who's kind of a fan favorite of ours, Jeff Lemire. Wrote a really good Extraordinary X-Men series. I'm super pumped about this. I love the X-Men. I'm not in love completely with what they've been doing so far. X-Men Red has been really good. I like Cullen Bunn's X-Men Blue, but it's had some it's rock road ups and downs. X-Men Gold has had a tough time since the beginning because some dude decided to be racist when he drew it the first couple issues, and that threw the whole thing off track. But we're getting Humberto Ramos on an X book. Don't know what it's called. Don't know who's writing it. Super pumped.
I'm going to speculate that it's a Wolverine book since Wolverine's coming back, but I'm just speculating. I don't have any inside information. But
I'm sure he's going to be a prominent character now that he's returned. And actually, I can't tell you what year. I don't have his worksheet in front of me. But Berto Ramos did X-Men not like in the early 2000s, roughly mid 2000s.
Yeah,
so it's a return for him to the X-Men.
Yeah, he's definitely had a tenure on the X characters.
In other news, we're going to actually take it to the music front right now. There is a certain cartoon band, maybe you may have heard it, called the Gorillaz. End of this month, they're going to be releasing a new album. They've already dropped 2 music videos for songs off that album. And if you follow Gorillaz deep enough, you know there actually has been an ongoing storyline in their music videos and in their interactive websites and whatnot. And they actually have like characters betraying each other, getting into fights. And currently in the storyline, Murdoch, their bass player, is in jail. He got into some shit. He's locked up.
I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Great.
So the band needed a new bass player for this new album. And at least so far in the with the music videos that have dropped so far, they've revealed them. And if you're a fan of, I believe it started in the 90s, the Powerpuff Girls, actually.
Mm-hmm.
There was a group of bad guys called the Gangrene Gang. Mm-hmm. And their leader is the new bassist for Gorillaz.
No shit.
It wasn't just inspired from, it's him in the band now. Redesigned by, of course, the Gorillaz artist. Yeah. Updated look. He looks older now. It's kind of funny. His hairline's a little receded. It kind of looks like a design.
Did any of you guys follow Powerpuff Girls?
I've watched off and on.
Powerpuff? Is it Powerpuff?
Powerpuff.
Yeah.
Powerpuff is where the girls play football.
Yeah. It will shock no one that I didn't know the name of a cartoon and or TV show.
Right. I watched it off and on. A good chunk of it, I would say, at least. It's always like, nothing I stuck with, but when I watched it, I've enjoyed it.
That was around my time of Cartoon Network, so that was my jam. Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Kurt's Cowardly Dog. All that was really great.
Please don't ever say that was my jam.
And
he's literally gonna say.
I also had a younger sister growing up, so it was her jam too.
Yeah, old man.
Can you hear my middle fingers to Craig, everyone?
They can't hear you.
Doesn't matter.
You know it's not jelly because jam don't shake like that.
All right. Long Box Podcast, Bears Podcast. If you're hiring, I'm now
strawberry. I hate strawberry.
I'm done with these people.
I don't know. Anyway,
so in video game news this week, if you follow us on Facebook, Bethesda had a timer pop up on their site that was like an old timey TV that said waiting, and anyone who knows the Fallout franchise knows that this has something to do with Fallout. They haven't had a new Elder Scrolls game in a while, which a lot of people were really hoping that was their new project that they were working on. And then obviously this confirmed that it was Fallout.
Well, I mean, we had Skyrim after New Vegas. New Vegas was the last thing we've had.
No, Fallout 4. Sure.
And now you know how much I follow the Fallout series.
So the very next day they announced that they have a Fallout 76 coming out. I don't think they've had a release date or anything like that announced. More excitingly to me about it, because my roommate John and I are like really do love the fucking Fallout series. But we've always, and it's a thing with Bethesda games, they did do Elder Scrolls Online, which they just changed too much of it up for an MMO type situation, so it didn't really feel like Elder Scrolls anymore. It's just, the mythos and stuff is there. But for Fallout 76, they're actually sticking with the gameplay, it looks like, and there's rumors of it having heavy co-op, like a lot of good co-op. So if you're sick of having your NPCs with dumb AI that walk into the doorways and just stand there and you can't get through and stuff like that, or running off into the middle of the action and everything and doing just shit like that, then you can have a buddy do it for you instead.
Orion's a fan of Fallout.
Yes.
I think he's just protesting Jerry's voice. There's a cat in the back pissed off that Jerry doesn't stop talking.
But yeah, what's up?
I was just going to interject. I didn't know that about the co-op part. That's amazing, because I would say I loved Skyrim, and admittedly I haven't really played the Fallout series, but I said a co-op Skyrim would be amazing, so I imagine a co-op Fallout would be just as amazing.
So let's pretend for a minute that, we don't actually have to pretend. I've never played any of the Fallout games. I think I own one of them. I don't think I've ever actually played it for more than 15. I think a robot killed me and I got frustrated and just picked up a book and started reading. So speak to me like I literally don't know anything. Tell me what Fallout is.
So Fallout is based, I believe it's the height of the Soviet conflict, and it's essentially nuclear war happens, and people go into these shelters that are called vaults, and they're all numbered. From Fallout 3, you start off as like a baby, and then you grow into adulthood, and then for one reason or another, you end up leaving the vault.
Okay.
And it's just a total wasteland, but somehow people have survived. So
That's actually the one I bought. Yeah, I think because you get that in the opening sequence or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was that one that had it was Fallout 3. What's up?
And your father was Liam Neeson.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
I never got out the tunnels in that game. That's the
Really?
much Fallout I played. Them damn tunnel rats. Fuck.
Well, that's how you know you don't stand a chance. If Liam Neeson is your dad, you need to hide. Like he has a many skills, but being a productive parent is apparently not one of them.
Right.
But it's really cool because because these bombs and everything flew, time is essentially stopped.
Mhm.
Now in the game they were a little bit more technologically advanced. So there's like some was it 60s 70s
It's kind of
futurism
right.
with
It's like the idea of the future from the 1960s in a post-apocalyptic setting. So it's still very much that 50s 60s era with advanced technology.
so you get all the music from that era. They have like a little radio, and they just have all of this like things are mutated. You're constantly having to worry about radiation and radiation poisoning, and all these like crazy mutated monsters and stuff like that. It's a really really great series.
The big thing about the game too is you have a storyline, but it's open world and that true freedom of like, okay, yeah, your next mission's over here. I'm gonna go look over there and see what I can kill, destroy, or build.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just like Skyrim or any of the Bethesda games in that aspect. Like you'll be like, oh, I have to trek all the way over here to get to this, but in between that, you'll get distracted by like 18 side quests.
Oh, very cool.
So it's a lot of fun.
It sounds like fun.
Got one last question for you. Is you're more knowledgeable about the lore. 76 mean anything?
I believe
Is it hinting?
for it being Vault 76, I want to say I read that it takes place 10 years after the other games
Okay.
or so.
We're not going to like a prequel or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to advance us a little further. So things might be a little more ruined and destroyed than they were in previous games, from what I
So
understand.
we jumped from 4 to 76. I mean, I know I know game companies and computer
Bethesda
companies.
doesn't know how to do math.
Right.
I don't know if it equates with anything to do with that. But 1776 is the year that America was founded. So is there some type of like, not to get overtly political,
Right.
but in the current political climate, it does feel like a little bit of a dystopian wasteland, and that is a very big thing. And with the whole North Korea, everything, nuclear talks are prevalent unless you live under a rock. So I wonder if that has something to do with some type of political machination to the game. I just wonder.
And they play off of a lot of like patriotic stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Like I think 3 happened in Washington, so you see like the Washington Monument and all of the buildings around that. And what's the square with all the museums and everything around it?
In DC,
Yeah,
the mall.
yeah,
It's the Washington Mall.
yeah. I mean, they have all that stuff for you to go and walk around in, and they've
Yeah.
been repurposed as bases for all of these, villains, and bad guys and stuff.
I'm willing to bet that's what it. We'll stay tuned. Anyway, history lesson, guys.
Yeah, but it looks really cool. I'm excited about it.
On same game note, actually, is another big video game announcement that many people who bought the Switch, I believe it came out last Christmas.
I don't
So-
remember. Yeah.
Since it came out, people have been waiting on the announcement of a Pokemon game, and right now they have fully shown it's a remake of Pokemon Yellow, and they're doing this. I'm trying to remember the actual titles. There's going to be 2 versions in the Pokemon tradition.
It's Pikachu and Eevee.
Right. I was trying to remember the full title. Which I'm going blank right now because I'm a bad reporter. But that's right though. It's a Pokemon Yellow where it was famous for following the cartoon more, and Pikachu ran with you out there. You got Pikachu or Eevee. You pick whatever Pokemon you like best. But I mean, we're talking about a Pokemon game on a console for the first time. An actual it's a remake, granted, but it is the full game. they've also hinted at another game. And unless I've missed any news, they haven't fully said what, but
I think it's their next gen.
But it is going to be the next. It's supposed to be the next in the line of the actual mainline series on a console instead of all portable. Even though Switch is portable, you know what I'm saying.
I just love the meme that I saw of it because this is the third time they've remade the first gen.
Yeah.
And it's a kid in classroom, and he's supposed to be Game Freak, the company that makes it. And they're like, Game Freak, this is the 7th time this week that you brought Gen 1 to show and tell.
Well, it's because Gen 1's the best one.
Now, I'm assuming this will only be on the Nintendo platform.
Only Nintendo Switch.
And the cool thing about it, which Roger would be interested in, is it has connectivity with Pokemon Go.
Yeah, there's even elements from that. We can get in a little bit of the gameplay now. Personally, I'm hoping it's not just this, but
that's what everybody's worried.
They're showing that like when you capture wild Pokemon, it's Pokemon Go. It shows you having to move the Switch controller like how you flick your thumb to throw the ball to catch. And we're hoping you still have to fight and weaken them first. That will kind of take away some of the combat. It does show combat against other trainers and bosses, of course.
They also announced the first for the Pokemon games too, multiplayer.
Oh,
yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Roger, my husband is in the living room listening to us record this, and he has texted me to let us know that it is the National Mall.
National
Mall.
Thank you, Roger.
And also, he's now mad at me that I didn't tell him about this game. And we're getting a Nintendo Switch.
Right.
But yeah. Go get a Switch right after this because you can use it as a portable device and a console device. And they seem like they're bringing a lot of cool stuff. This is what I wish Pokemon would have been, 5-10 years ago.
I mean, the fans have been begging. I mean, Pokemon Portable is what it's been. It's what everyone knows. But they've been begging since the Nintendo 64. People have been wanting a console quality Pokemon game because it is an RPG, which is a big game franchise.
I had the Pokemon Snap for Nintendo 64.
I played the shit out
I love
Pokemon Snap.
Pokemon Snap was so much fun. And Coliseum, those are
and
that was my jam.
What's a Pokemon?
It's like the worst
Digimon, but
I was going to say it's the worst version of Digimon.
Gotcha.
Also, side note, if you need any other reason to buy a Switch, they are burning Monster Hunter to the Switch as well. We have talked about that franchise before. Go get a damn Switch and buy me one too.
So a little bit of change of pace. We're going to switch from games to television. And if you haven't or not caught up on Walking Dead, you probably need to close your ears right now because we're going to discuss a couple of things.
Yeah, spoiler warning. So if you want to hit that little 30-second skip button real quick until we're through talking about Walking Dead.
Yeah, so big news this week is that Andrew Lincoln is leaving Walking Dead after the 6th episode of next season. And that's a big deal, especially with Carl's demise last season.
Yep.
It looks like Daryl is going to be the leader of the group, or Michonne, after this, because Maggie is also...
I was going to say, there's another big name that's gone from the show now.
Yeah, I can't think of the lady that plays Maggie's name right now off the top of my head.
I want to say Lauren Cohen.
That's actually it.
Yes, I just watched a movie with her in it last night. That's the only reason.
So she's leaving after the same episode. So it's episode 6 is going to be horrific if you're a Walking Dead fan. I haven't watched it in a season now, so I'm a little bit behind. But following the news sites we follow, I know what's been happening, and they are certainly going to take a turn from the comic books. It appears. I'm sure it'll be similar storylines with different people.
I mean, this is a huge divergence, obviously, with
Chandler Riggs not being on the show any longer.
I mean, basically, but like for us comic readers who still cared about the show, I'm not one of them. I dropped the show by. I'm still reading the comic every month. It is going to be a huge change, but honestly, we know the fans love Daryl. If they choose him as the show lead, I think he'll still keep his popularity, unless the issue that always comes up when you have the stoic, quiet badass. You want to give, if he's going to be the lead, he has to have more character, more personality, more talking. That could take away from the character itself. That's why, personally, I think Michonne is a better lead.
Yeah, my husband still watches the show. I largely quit caring about 4 seasons ago, and they kept recycling the same story. And that was my problem with the show. Is not that it's nothing to do with any of the actors, not that any of the characters weren't compelling. I get really tired of walk, wander up on civilization that's bigger than the last civilization we find, come into it, turn out it's ran by psychopaths, fight it, conquer it, leave. Walk, meet a bigger civilization. Psychopaths, fighting, little zombies.
So, spoiler for the comic book, that's exactly what's happening right now.
Hey, you know what, dude? There is no internet to bitch about in the zombie apocalypse. All you can do is walk, find civilizations, kill them all to walk on. That's okay. That's what they can do.
I would largely be fine if they were walking and killing zombies. It's the meeting the humans that are shitheads that I get tired of.
Humans are shitheads.
I hate people. They're the worst.
All right, so in my TV news this week, I actually just found out that Legion got renewed for season 3. Funny enough, I found out earlier this week that season 1 was on Hulu. I've been wanting to watch this show since it first got announced and I first saw that first trailer, but I couldn't find anywhere to watch it. And somebody was like, yo, season 1 is on Hulu. So in my drunken fit of productivity yesterday, other than writing an entire review on Spider-Man 800, I binged all of season 1 of Legion. And I gotta say, I'm pretty excited that this show is still going on because that first season was fan-fucking-tastic.
Nice.
All of the actors and actresses in it performed really fucking well, and it did a really good job of being in that the X universe and making me feel like I was part of the X universe. Just really enjoyed it, and it felt as trippy as you would think a Legion comic book TV show would go.
Now, did you ever read the comics of that character?
I read, I think it was 2 volumes ago. I think they were doing all new, all different at that point, or
Is that the one where he took on like the Roxxon Corporation because they were creating like a mutant healing thing, but they were really just killing the mutants?
I don't remember the specifics because this feels like it was forever ago.
It started off really good, and it went because you got to really see inside of his head and how he dealt with all the different personalities.
That was the big thing that got me because if you don't know, Legion, this character, his name's David. I can't remember his last name, but he's the son of Charles Xavier. In the show, they explain that he was adopted by a family. They even show like a little bit of like his chair, Professor X's chair, whenever he's giving David up. But David's mutant ability is he has this crazy multi personality disorder. Yeah, and but how it works is each personality has a different superpower. So while he's one of like the strongest mutants, he's constantly struggling with his identity. And the way he dealt with it in the, I'm not going to spoil anything for the show, but how he dealt with it in the comic book was he basically had it run like a prison. Yeah. So at any point you would see him wandering around this prison like in his head, and he would like take somebody out and use them to use their powers like IRL, you know.
Yeah.
But it was just really cool. And then they had this whole thing with like an uprising. And
did you just say
yes,
IRL? Yes, I did.
Yes, he
actual
did.
Conversation.
Yeah. So
WTF.
You're welcome.
OFG.
But anyway, they had, with how the storyline went, is there was an uprising in the prison. A bunch of really not so nice personalities started getting through and causing this prison break, and started all kinds of mayhem and chaos. And it was it was a crazy series. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so his name is David Haller. I just looked it up.
David Haller. Gotcha.
Yeah, and his middle name is actually Charles. He's named after his dad.
Oh.
But the crazy thing is, like you said, is that he's so powerful because any one of his personalities has a different mutant ability.
Yeah.
So whichever one he's letting control him at that time is whatever power he has. So
yeah, arguably he's the second most powerful mutant other than Franklin Richards.
Yeah.
As far as the potential for destruction or for good, but it's insane. What? Marvel, quit letting Charles Xavier near children anywhere. He is going to fuck up their lives. He's not a good role model. You should
I don't
probably
remember
stop.
the story on why he gave him up for adoption. I know they really fucked it up in the movies when they made
He had a
him.
slight appearance in part 2. It wasn't really the Legion in the comics, but he was an X-Men too.
Yeah, and he actually was what's his name, the Weapon X guy's son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was who that was supposed to be.
That was supposed to be. He was definitely inspired.
He's definitely supposed to be Legion in the movie, but it's not the Legion that is in the comics at all.
Now, like I said, I need to watch the show because the last time I saw anything significant with Legion, I think it was called the Prometheus Effect.
Yeah.
It was a 90s like crossover series. That's the last time I read anything with Legion.
Well, I'm not reading the current one. I'm buying it. I'm going to probably wait till it's further along and then read a couple of story arcs at once because I've sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's so I'm kind of waiting to see.
The art threw me off on that book.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing to recognize him was always the hair.
Yeah.
It always stood out.
He's got
that
Kid and
super
Play hair.
He's got like a static,
the static
Wayne
X,
static thing
Static X
happening.
or Kid,
Right.
Kid from Kid and Play.
Yeah. Well, all right. Do we have any more news? Anything?
We do. We have one that's been a little polarizing amongst the fan community.
You mean the internet had some outrage over something?
I know, right? But even the people we know personally that we could hit in the face if we so chose to.
The guy I'm not going to hit in the face.
Exactly. But I mean, it's been a topic of discussion. Is that Jamie Foxx has been cast as Al Simmons, known as Spawn, for the upcoming new Spawn reboot, remake, sequel. We're still not sure where they're going with it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are upset. Some people are okay with it.
So I think I'm the odd man out in this group. I'm not upset by it by any means. I just don't have high expectations out of this. Jamie Foxx doing genre stuff doesn't pique my interest at all. I love him in more serious stuff. I love him. His portrayal of Ray Charles was insane. Jamie Foxx in an action thriller, just snooze.
I actually really like Django though.
Django was a damn good movie. Here's the hope I have for the movie. If rumors are still true, and like I said, it's all speculation, it's all fan rumor, but this is kind of going off of what McFarlane originally said when he first started talking about doing this again. He said he wanted to bring back the Spawn universe by making a Sam and Twitch movie, the detectives that were prominent throughout the Spawn comics. So if he's still going in that direction, Spawn's more likely to be an element, like what I say, like a force of nature. Like he's not going to be the focus. Just during the movie that's going to be about Sam and Twitch investigating Spawn's going to show up. Be a part of the story, but not the focus of the story. If that's true, I'm a little bit better about Jamie Foxx doing it. But I mean, he is a good actor. We know that.
He is. He's definitely got talent.
It's not his fault for how Electro turned out, people. Unless you can show me the documentation where he's like, no, write him this way. He was just following a terrible script with a terrible director. But yes,
how do you really feel?
Hey, I'm telling you, I'm talking how I'm feeling. Being Spider-Man 2 was ass.
Yeah,
it was terrible. Like I said, he has shown that he can do action. Django Unchained, I believe he did very well on that. Mm-hmm. And granted, it's Tarantino action, so it's also a little lighthearted. But like I haven't seen Ray. Always heard great things about it. That he can show that he can transform himself if he really wants to get into a deep kind of role, which
Spawn could be. Spawn could be definitely a deeper story there.
He was also in Baby Driver.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that either.
This movie is so fucking.
I hear it's good. Final thoughts, like I said, as always, wait to see. See how it is. Check it out. I still think they could have kept Michael Jai White because he's still in great shape. He was a great Spawn in an okay movie I still can watch and not hate. But I understand it was probably the studio, amongst other reasons, of course. But I can also imagine the studio wanted to kind of separate itself as much from the old one. Unless it's a sequel, then it makes no fucking sense.
Well, McFarlane's doing it, and I think it's a complete reboot. And from my understanding from listening to him talk, is he's trying to get away from that movie and redo one in the way he wants it done. So it's probably just trying to get some separation, is why.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, and there's definitely name recognition there.
Absolutely.
Because he is a megastar.
Why wouldn't you be chosen Michael Jordan?
Who?
Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, well, that's another one. Yeah, honestly, I think that's what it is for me. I want
the basketball player?
I'm sorry, I didn't put B in there.
You got it.
I would prefer an actor who is slightly on the younger side for this. Somebody who has gone into the military, has gone through the special forces training, possibly between the ages of 28, 35. Somebody who would have a younger family, because that would just make more sense for that character. And that largely to me is not is not what I get the feeling from for Jamie Foxx. Could be completely wrong, like you said. Completely, I will go see this film. I wish nothing but the best for it. Just the casting did not fill me with the warm and fuzzies that it did other folks. And that's a thing.
Absolutely. It's one of those wait and see kind of projects.
Yeah, for sure.
It didn't cast a terrible actor. It just may not be the right actor.
Well, I was okay with it, but I kind of think that it's definitely for me this movie, the entire, all of the announcements. It's just been okay. I'll see it when it's out, and we'll see how it is.
So when a movie's in production for this fucking long, like it's hard for me to expect good things. The Crow movie, and that's another thing. We didn't even have it written down, but Jason Momoa and the director walked away from The Crow this past week. That movie is back up in the air. Who knows what's going to happen? They've been trying to make this Spawn remake for the past 7 or 8 years. They've been trying to make The Crow for the past decade. When the production of these movies are having such a hard time coming together, that immediately fills me with a little bit of doubt to what the quality of the film is going to be in the first place. But this one does seem like it's a little bit more on track. So, like I said, not knocking anybody, not going to be one of those people who goes online and is like, oh, this is going to be garbage. Just, I don't, the hype is not there for me.
I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, get on our social media sites because we're talking about the news that comes out as it comes out all the time there. We can only get together and give you one podcast, but we're real people and we can interact with you all the time. So jump on there. I'm really excited about this because this is the part of the show where I get to learn things that I largely don't know about and that I don't think Craig probably doesn't know a lot about. We're fortunate on this podcast. We all read comics and we know a lot about them. The other side of that is manga and anime. Anime is is a big part. I only did that for Jerry. Is a big part of the culture. Jerry and Sean are both extremely knowledgeable about this stuff. So we have a segment of the show that we like to call the Manga Ramen. So they are going to serve us a big bowl of Manga Ramen right now.
Yes, we are. And today we're going to talk about a series that came out about 3 years ago. It was a very interesting series. It's not one I've seen a lot of people talk about anymore, so we want to kind of bring some attention to it. It's called Charlotte. It is a 13-episode anime. It's actually an original anime. It wasn't based on a manga, although they did make a manga afterwards.
It's really nice to pick something like that because it's a quick burn, and you can easily, you could pile that on in a weekend.
13 episodes. It's available in both Japanese and English. So whatever your preference is, easier way to watch it, you should check it out.
So it's dubbed and subbed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's available subtitle or dubbed at any of your normal streaming services, Funimation, Crunchyroll, or get VRV and have both. You can check it out either way.
Sean actually sold me on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, what it is that it's a, set in Japan. It's a world where there's a comet. I believe they call it
Charlotte.
The Charlotte Comet that passes over Earth every 75 years. And what it does, it actually sprinkles like spores over the Earth as it passes. And anyone who's pre-adolescent, pre-puberty, like before they hit puberty.
Prepubescent.
Yeah, prepubescent, thank you. Inhale it, they have a chance to gain abilities. And what I really liked about this show is that these powers are not perfect. While we have a show we talked about recently about My Hero Academia where 80% of the population has super abilities, it goes to school, sure, but it's usually like, I can blow stuff up, I can fly, I can do this. Here we have like the main character, Yu Otosaka. He has the ability to possess somebody for 5 seconds. While he can possess him for 5 seconds, not much time to do much, and his body collapses where he was standing when he does that, isn't it? And he's a good kid. He doesn't like take advantage of it with it, but he has had to use it in the past. He meets up with a girl who can turn invisible only one person.
Well, he does take advantage of it.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
I don't know how much story-wise. Well,
yeah. So it starts off, and he's basically using it how, a teenager would, where he's like flipping up girls' skirts with another person's body, or like he sees somebody litter, so he possesses their friend and makes them punch them. And
it hasn't been 3 years since I watched it.
Then he decides, because he's not like super hyper intelligent, he starts using it to cheat so he could get into a really big cram school. Whenever he gets into this school, he decides that he's going to be, the #1 student. And get the cutest girl. So he manipulates some stuff with her and makes it to where he ends up saving her life. And and then after that, he gets found out by these other people that have abilities.
All of this sounds very ethically questionable to me.
Yeah, no, it super is.
Yeah, I completely misled you with a bad memory of what he was, apparently.
Yeah. But no,
you're starting off with a legion of Japanese kids who stuff space powder up their nose and gain super abilities so that they can
they inhaling, and it's like allergies.
The whole
comet cocaine.
The whole idea of it is they only have it for a few years until they become an adult.
That's usually how addiction works. You only get to be it for a few years.
So he ends up.
Some people it's a lifetime.
He ends up getting found out by these people from this other school who investigate people with abilities. You find out later on that they're doing this because there's a secret government op that's been abducting these children, using them for their own government like political gain and stuff like that. But the first girl he meets,
like I said, the core group, they each got pretty unique powers. The first girl, she can turn invisible to only one person. Like, you think invisibility like Sue Storm, everyone, but she can only choose a specific target to not be seen.
Gotcha.
So, limited. There's, that's Nao Tomoroji. There's another guy named Jojiro Takajo. He is a speedster. He's the Flash. But he can't control himself when he goes too fast. He will just run and crash through shit.
He calls it teleportation.
Yeah.
But really what he does is he moves from one point to another point at a supersonic like speed. So like the first time the main character gets found out by the girl that goes invisible, he bumps into this guy, and this guy is the one that chases him. So like the entire time the kid's running, and you just see shit behind him exploding, and you're like, what the fuck? And then you find out that this kid is moving at supersonic speed, but he can't stop himself, and he just destroys shit.
It's about the way I skate.
And the final member of the initial four is Yusa Nishimori. Her ability is that she's a medium. She can be possessed by the dead.
Okay.
While they use that to like kind of get some information, I believe in one point of the investigation, the big thing she can do is she had a sister. Her sister passed away, and she can get possessed by her sister Misa, who has pyrokinesis.
So kind of a legion thing.
Yeah, a little bit with that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. And then like it goes much deeper in there. The main character, he had a sister whose ability was she can make things collapse and like degrade around her. Like she brings destruction around her. Very negative power. It actually killed her.
The series halfway through takes a turn and gets really fucking dark.
As manga and anime tend to do.
And then like without giving away too much of the story, but I want y'all to go out and watch the show. Give us some love. Here's a big caveat for the rest of it, because like you said, there's a government messing with stuff. There's the death of the main character's sister. He also has a brother who has the ability of time travel. And he used it quite a bit. We're not going to get into what he was doing with it. But actually using it too much made him go blind. And then they find the big kicker is that there's an addition.
I thought it was masturbation.
There's so much about this.
It's a thing that sends his basically it sends his consciousness back to his old body.
Right. And it caused him to go blind.
Does it cause him to get hairy palms?
And then the big thing about it is, and I don't know if we want to discuss exactly the big thing with you about his possession of people. It turns into something a lot more powerful. I don't want to give it away, honestly.
It's more than what you're led on to believe. And it's kind of funny because you and his sister, they basically live alone. They're on their own. And so whenever he gets accepted to this new school by these kids with abilities for protection and stuff, she goes with him. But she keeps saying like stuff like, "Oh, I thought there was another one," or something like that. Like, and every now and then he'll have like a weird memory or something like that. So like later on, you find out that this brother that had been going back in time and trying to stop things from happening, basically erased their memory of him. And so whenever the main character finds out about him, it just starts this whole new ball game of stuff going on. And when it hits that turn, like that depression phase of his sister's death, and it just kind of goes a little bit downhill from there, and then it picks up a little, and then at the end it's just
it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because it starts off very much like teenagers with superpowers. We're gonna fight the government. We're gonna, we're just gonna, we don't want them taking advantage of us while they're, because they don't fully understand about this comet that changes people. So the government, of course, wants to figure out how, and of course, weaponize, as they tend to do. So it's a roller coaster. It starts off very lighthearted, it gets very dark, and they'll just leave you at the end of every episode just like, what the fuck? Yeah. And marathon, me and Jerry suffered through it on a weekly basis, watching it as it came out.
It was pretty brutal.
It was one of us most, I almost call it like our year or our summer of fucking feels when it comes to anime. It was part of a series of anime that destroyed us. And it's very good. It's, if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. 13 episodes, you can go through it really quick. If you haven't heard of it, but you heard of a series called Angel Beats, it's the same company that produced that anime before this one. I would highly recommend that.
Now, did this start off as a manga first?
It was an original anime, actually.
Okay.
They have since published 2 different manga adaptations, and I believe they've done light novels and stuff. There has been other medium after, but it was like this company's known for making original anime, original stories that wasn't based on anything before the anime.
Okay. Space dust fueled, ethically challenged, super
and
children.
you actually don't find anything out about the comet till the very end. His little sister brings it up occasionally because she's got a telescope and everything. So she's like super excited about this comet, and you don't find out till much later that all of this stuff is coming from this comet.
Now, so I've never seen this. Surprising, 0 people. But as you guys are teaching me about manga and anime and just the Japanese sequential art styles, reading things like Uzumaki, which I read not too long ago. It fascinates. I'm used to my comics and everything having an overabundance of metaphor, and that's fine. Right. It fascinates me the extent and the dark metaphor that have popped up in the manga and anime that I've consumed since you kind of have broken me out of my shell, and I don't know if it's a cultural thing. I don't know what the origin of that is that makes it different. Like it's the same. Metaphor is metaphor. So in American style comics, you get metaphor for some really dark themes. In manga and anime, you get metaphor for some really dark things. But they are notably and tangibly different in the way that they are used between comics and manga, and that fascinates me. Like I just as a craft aspect of it, seeing those things in the way that they develop are insane, and what they use to be metaphors. I mean, you're talking about a comet that you inhale dust from the comet. I mean, that could be a metaphor for drug abuse. That could also be a metaphor for puberty because you're dealing with prepubescent children, which is an odd thing to talk about. But just the extent to which these creators dive into their psyches to bring out some of these stories is just fascinating to me. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's an island nation who dealt with a lot of strife and a long history of it. So talking about issues and dealing with it in a creative manner, this comes from years and decades, centuries of dealing with oppressive leaderships, changes in their society. So it's always been a big part of their culture to rebel against and talk about what's wrong, even if it is in a unique medium.
Well, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you certainly know more about Japanese culture than I do. But one of the reasons that Japanese horror films do so well in America, whether it's the actual horror film or the original version or a remake, because we need to have English-speaking people say it. One of the reasons those do so well over here is very much that same theme. It's because in Japanese culture and Asian culture in general, the good doesn't always win.
Right. It manifests itself in a way that we're not largely used to.
They don't follow that American-made horror stereotype.
Sometimes evil is just evil and it beats you. Mm-hmm. In Japanese culture, they're okay with that. It's what they, their whole lives. And if you go back to old English, like Grimm fairy tales and stuff, sometimes the bad guys won in that too. It wasn't until we Americanized a lot of this and said, no, the good guys are always going to win.
Well, it's a very realistic take on it. And like, as you brought up, the Grimm fairy tales were very much like that. I think it's something we've lost, especially here in the West, because we wanted to turn story time into kid time. Japan, while they have stories for kids, they tend to keep it very realistic because I think, personally, I think it's a big part of how they've always kept the old and the new within their culture, specifically in Japan. How, like, you know, they moved on, but they've never forgot tradition. Yeah. Like when me and Jerry were walking through Tokyo and Osaka in our trip, you're walking by skyscrapers of beautiful modern architecture, and right next to it is probably 100-year-old shrine.
Right.
You know, and so to me, they've always kept grounded with their stories. They always move forward with advancement and creativity. They never forget the past. So those old ways of telling a story, a fable, with serious tones, they've never shied away from it, regardless of who is aimed at age-wise.
It's truly fascinating to me, the way it manifests and the way it presents and the way it shows up on the page or on the screen. Just, I don't know. I'm really developing an appreciation for it.
And I'm glad you are.
That's largely because of you guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah. This is why we have this manga ramen corner. But our bowls are empty. It was delicious. Ikidakimasu.
I do like my manga ramen subbed and dubbed.
Yeah. Whatever your preference is, don't ever be ashamed to listen to English if that's what you like.
I'm never ashamed of being subbed or dubbed. So let's take a moment for that to really sink in. Now we went to a con not too long ago that was Arkansas Anime Con, and we got the chance to talk to some people who listen to the podcast, or hopefully who have become listeners to the podcast, and don't just take our word for it that these things are good. Let's take a moment to listen to one of our fans tell us about what they like and what they are reading.
Southern Fried Geekery.
Okay, we are still here at Anime Con Arkansas, and I have someone here with me. You are?
Anna, and my recommendation is Erased. It's an anime pretty much about a dude who has a problem in his life, but he doesn't necessarily know the problem yet. Well, his mother gets murdered, so he then goes back in time without realizing it. And each time something happens that could either get him harmed or the people around him harmed, he has to go back in time and fix what that problem was. He spends months or weeks or even months in this timeline, which is in the 1990s, which is where he was in junior high, I believe. Or it was, yeah.
I mean, he wore it back to like elementary.
Yeah, he warped back to like elementary. Erased. And he had to go back and fix this, and he spent all of this time there. And he was just so happy to see his mom when he first got back that day. And the ending, it left almost an opening for a season 2, but I highly doubt they'll have one.
Indeed. All right, well, that sounds awesome. Thank you very much.
Southern Fried Geekery.
All right, that was awesome. As we're at cons, we always have a recorder with us most of the time, so we want to do interviews and stuff. If you ever see the SFG crew walking around and you want to talk to us about a manga or an anime, and you see Jerry, or if you just want to just say hi or whatever, come chat us up. Come. We'll let you do a blip just like the one you just heard, and we really do appreciate people doing that. We like the interaction. So,
and coming soon to local conventions will be us with tables.
Yeah, and a fancy logo.
That's a plan we have.
Yeah, we got some stuff in the works, so keep your eyes open, keep an eye out for us at the conventions. Hopefully here soon.
All right, so let's bounce into some comics that we read this week. As much as I love manga and anime, that's not my bread and butter. This stuff is. So I'm really excited to hear about some books that you guys read this week. Ready to talk about a book I read this week. So let's jump into it. Who wants to get Smother'd covered in comics first?
I'll go first. This is a week that there was quite a few important books that came out. I'm going to talk about one of them, but I do want to give an honorable mention to Aquaman and Jabberjaw. That book was way better than it deserved to be.
Now, what you're talking about, DC released a series of kind of mashups between the Hanna-Barbera characters and some of the mainline DC characters. They've done this before, and they've done it with Warner Brothers stuff. They've done it with
Looney Tunes last time, and this time it's the Hanna-Barbera stuff, and they really matched the characters up well. I mean, obviously Jabberjaw, the talking shark, with Aquaman is an amazing combo. Speed Buggy with the Flash was pretty good too. Yeah, I mean, they did a really good job of pairing them up. But that Aquaman, Jabberjaw, that was really good. And then I always forget about Captain Caveman, and he had a little side story at the back of it, and it was really good too. So,
Blue Falcon showed up in one of them. That made me happy.
yeah, that was. Which one was that?
I don't know.
Was that Outsiders?
I wasn't prepared to talk about it. I have no clue. I just know he was there.
And Dynamite.
And Dynamite.
Yeah. So the book I am actually going to talk about is The Man of Steel. And the reason we need to talk about this is because it's Brian Michael Bendis' first full issue of a Superman book in the DC world.
And if you didn't listen last week, Craig also talked about another Marvel's last Bendis
I will
book.
say this book is nowhere near as batshit insane as Iron Man.
I was really sad when you told me Leonardo da Vinci and Blade didn't show up in it.
Yeah, they did not. So, of course, it's written by Brian Michael Bendis. It's published by DC. It was drawn by Ivan Reis with Joe Prado on inks and Alex Sinclair on colors.
Just a hell of a team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful book. The art is beautiful. It's a well-written story. It starts off with our new villain, Rogol Zar, who made his first appearance in Action 1000 and kind of tells you that he destroyed Krypton. Well, this book backtracks a little bit. It starts with him actually on Krypton, 100 years ago or so. It doesn't really say. And he's talking to a council of immortals that happens to include one of the Guardians from
Green Lantern.
Wow. And somebody that looks like a Norse god, somebody that looks like a frost giant, and two other people I have no idea. And he tells them that their love for science, the Kryptonians' love for science is actually causing them to go out and start destroying planets. And he believes that they're going to actually destroy planets to take their resources so they can fund their science knowledge. And it's going to cause planets like, he brings up Zarnia, which is, you guys know, is Lobo's home planet.
Oh.
So brings up that it's going to cause the fall of these planets because they're just going to go in, they're going to deplete the resources, and it's going to leave these planets in civil war fighting over the resources that are left. And obviously the only way to stop this is genocide. And so then it switches back to modern times with Superman flying around in Metropolis.
In his red shorts.
Yeah, he's got his red shorts back on. He's flying around Metropolis. He stops a couple of mid-range bad guys because he can hear them with a super hearing and swoops in and stops them. And then there's a fire. And he thinks to himself on the way to this fire, well, there's been a lot of fires in Metropolis lately. I wonder if there's not an arsonist.
Could you imagine being that asshole that's like looting a place or something and Superman shows up to stop you? Like,
I mean, there's actually a pretty good joke in the book about it because he's like, why are you guys in Metropolis? And they're like, well, we figured it would be a good place to hide because none of the bad guys come here. And he's like, oh, that was well thought out.
Yeah, you know why?
Wasn't it Firefly or some, what bad guy was it? I'm trying to remember what villain that was.
Oh,
low level, just a whack ass.
Yeah,
bitch,
I don't even remember. Yeah. So, anyways, he's flying them off. The fire starts. He heads over to this fire. He saves kids, as Superman does. He puts out the fire, and then he's going and investigating himself because he's like, there's obviously more to this because this has been so many of them. Well, there's a new fire marshal in town, and it's a female, and you kind of get the hint that her name's Melody Moore. You kind of get the hint that she's going to be a bigger character than just this 1 week because she kind of flirts with Superman. He seems a little receptive to it. We'll get back to that in a minute because it's kind of an issue I have with this book.
Well, your first signal there is the fact that her name is an alliteration.
Yeah.
Anytime with comics when that shows up, you kind of know that something's going on.
And so exactly. And so like he says, oh, well, why don't you have my buddy Clark Kent or Lois? No, just have Clark investigate this. So he immediately cuts Lois out of the conversation. He flies off. She makes some comment, and of course he's grinning because he can hear her, and she's like, "Damn it, super hearing," So, so then it goes back to Rogol Zar back on Krypton, waiting to hear back from the council. The Guardian shows up, and he tells them. It doesn't say the Guardian's names in it, you know. And he shows up, and he's like, "Well, the council's decided to not let you go ahead and commit genocide. The only reason why we even listen to you, the only reason why we listen to you is because you've been a good, faithful soldier in the past, and you know we value your opinion, but we feel like your emotions are involved in this, so we don't know what's happened between Krypton and this guy before." And so you can tell he's just not happy, and then it cuts back to Clark Kent at the Daily Planet, and he's talking to Perry White. Perry walks off, and he looks down, and there's a picture of Lois and John and him, and you can just tell something's not quite. There's like a disconnect between him and Lois. He goes back home. There's John's got some things going on with his clothes, and he says, "Well, Mom told me to do this," and Clark goes, "Oh, did she?" And it's like you can tell that he's not happy with what. And there's just like all of a sudden they're showing like this distance between Lois and Clark, which kind of bothers me because it wasn't happening before Bendis started writing. So it's like out of nowhere we have this discourse between them. So they're sitting there talking, and it's kind of a cute scene. And then all of a sudden there's a blinding light, and Clark rips off his glasses, and it says to be continued next week. So my opinion, it's a good setup book. Not nearly as batshit crazy as Iron Man was. I think it's beautifully drawn. I think it's well written. My reservations are what he's doing with the character at this point, not with the writing of the character. I'm going to be real upset if Clark Kent is going to have an affair on Lois because it's so far out of his character of who he is. That's going in a kind of. I'm not saying that he said that's going to happen, but it's just kind of hints pointing towards it.
I don't think that he's going to end up having an affair, and at least I hope not, because I'm with you. If that actually happens, I'm done.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of it showing Clark's human side, and the fact that Clark, he is a man. He does find, he's with Lois. He finds women attractive on some point. The woman, Melody, whatever her name was.
Melody Moore,
not Melanie Moore, is she's an attractive woman. She's drawn gorgeously. Ivan Reis and Joe Prado on the inks, she's gorgeous. And he is a man, so that he probably does find her attractive. Now, I need to go back and read the DC Nation Zero issue and the story that Bendis did in Action 1000. Because I think something happened in there, and it's been a while. I largely didn't like those stories, so I didn't pay that much attention to them. I kind of wonder if Lois isn't out on assignment, and that she's and that's why she's not there.
She was in this issue. She was at home with him, and then she was also at the Daily Planet.
Okay, so I need to go back and figure that out because there's something weird going on there, and there's this weird distance.
All right, first of all, I don't want the relationship to get fridged. Okay, I don't need a cheap plot point for the movie. I just had to make the fridge reference. I do find it a little weird. Like, I agree. Like, yes, there is that human side to Clark, but he is that forever Boy Scout. Tom King recently tried to give us the tease about Batman and Wonder Woman not too long ago.
Right.
And kind of feels coattail riding about all the drama that kind of caused amongst it. But, again, read and see.
I feel like that's exactly the case. I'm going to give Bendis a few issues, of course. I mean, it's Bendis. So I'm going to give him a few issues to kind of flesh this out. Flesh it out so we can see where he's really going with it. But.
Well, and if the story goes to a place where she's hitting on him... Oh, sorry, Jerry. If the story goes to a place where she's hitting on him and he's just like, hey, I appreciate that, but, I'm dedicated to my wife and stuff, that's fine because people do find Superman attractive.
Right.
I was just going to say, I can't wait till next issue whenever he brings Steel back alive and we find out that Michelangelo founded Argus.
So, you're not going to let this die.
So back to my other reservation about this story. And to me, it's almost a bigger reservation. I want to believe that Rogolzar or Rogolzar is lying to get under Clark's skin, that he really didn't destroy Krypton, because I don't think we need to revisit the destruction of Krypton and have somebody else destroy Krypton so that we can introduce a new bad guy. Now, I'm down with this guy wanted all of Krypton to die, and he finds out there's still a Kryptonian alive, and he comes to Earth to kill that guy.
You're down with that? You're just no, I'm kidding. Just playing on words.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
I'm down with Kryptonian genocide.
I mean, that's his jam, is Kryptonian genocide.
It's definitely my jam. So I'm okay with that. I mean, the other thing that I can see coming from a mile away is, Lobo's going to find out that the Kryptonians actually caused Zarnia to fall apart, and you're going to end up with a Lobo and you're going to end up with you're going to end up with Superman versus Lobo out of it.
How many times have they retold us like a different way that Krypton has been destroyed?
That's why I don't want him to revisit it.
Yeah.
I want him to just leave it alone. I'm sorry, Sean.
No, I was going to say, actually, please correct my ignorance. I've always just known it to blow up. What else has been explained?
Brainiac.
Yeah.
Brainiac was a big one for a while, was it not?
Oh, yeah.
In New 52, Brainiac stole one of the cities, which has been a thing.
Well, I think it was the animated series actually had said he's the one that blew up Krypton after he got all their information.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, I forgot about that. Has there been anything else? Just
I mean, it's been that they caused it through their massive negligence of the planet.
It's the same thing with Batman. I don't need to see the pearls getting ripped off the necklace every comic issue. I don't need to revisit the fact that Uncle Ben got 86 because of Peter Parker's negligence every issue. There are just some things that you can let it be lore.
So again, I am okay if the dude shows up and he's just telling Clark, hey, I destroyed your planet. Now I'm here to kill you. And then they get into a fight, and then we find out later that didn't actually happen.
Right.
Again, I'm going to let Bendis tell a story. I am happy that Clark didn't turn into John Constantine at the end of the issue.
So, how do you feel about this as the start of his arc? Because I know we both had we weren't feeling it. Just to be quite honest, when we read the Action 1000 book and everything. So, how are you feeling now?
I'm feeling like I'm going to give it a good story arc or two to see how it plays out. I still have my reservations about it, of course, but Bendis, you don't get to the level that he's at in comic books without being able to tell a story. You can bitch about certain parts of the way he tells a story. His dialogue sometimes is contrived, and he tries to be funny, overly funny sometimes, and things of this nature. But overall, the man knows how to tell a story. So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give it a couple of story arcs, and we're gonna see where it's at. This, I believe, is a miniseries.
Yeah.
The Man of Steel is a miniseries. It's going to come out weekly for, I want to say, 6 issues, and then they're going to launch Action and Superman. They're going to go back to those. So,
and this is going to have a different art team on each different issue, from what I understand.
That's unfortunate, because the art team on this book was
I love Reese and
beautiful.
Grotto.
So
that might be my new favorite artist eager team.
The cover on this is, that's one of my favorite Superman drawings ever. So
I think switching up the art team is probably smart. They probably learned from No Justice when they had it good for the first couple issues, and they had a last minute fill in with a great artist who, just like we discussed it last week, didn't really fit. I forget his name. Top of my head, the guy who does Deathbed.
Yeah.
Riley Rossmo.
Yeah, it's great artist. To me, it just really didn't fit the theme of what we already had going, and I think if you're gonna do a weekly book, switching up artists isn't a bad idea.
And there's some connection. There's some similarities between him and Manipool, who was on the series, but just when you're not expecting it, it does take you out of the story. But on this one, they're doing a new person for each one, and then when he gets into the Superman series, he's going to have a dedicated artist for that.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to see what he does with Superman. Superman was good. Previously, Action Comics was fantastic.
Oh.
I'm really sad that they ended up, but again, it's Bendis. There's a reason they gave him Superman. There's a reason. So we'll see how it plays out.
What's your favorite Bendis story?
Oh, I'm going to go with Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay.
Both the Peter Parker run and the Miles Morales. At first, when Miles Morales took over, now first of all, let me say the end of Peter Parker in Ultimate Spider-Man, some of the most heart-wrenching books I've ever read in my life. And then it led right into Miles Morales taking over. And at first, Miles Morales was too young, and they did kind of a time skip thing. And I really enjoy that character now. Glad that he's in the main universe. It's going to be weird having somebody else write Miles Morales because he's only ever been written by Bendis. So, you know, and I also want to see if they hold on to the fact that Miles Morales is supposedly immortal. Because all of the Norman Osborn, Peter Parker, and Miles Morales all either were bitten by that same spider or used that spider's venom. In that Ultimate Universe, Norman Osborn used the spider venom to create the Goblin serum. And that venom, that spider venom, actually caused immortality because both Norman Osborn and Peter Parker showed back up later after their deaths. And they're like, apparently we can't die. We were dead, we were buried, we were put underground. And,
Nice.
And here we are.
I've got those. I haven't read them.
So that's probably my favorite. I mean, I could give you a list of ones that I don't love, but
Actually, mine is actually the last thing I can remember and know for sure was Bendis was the early Ultimate Spider-Man books. And like Craig covered pretty well what he already did, but I can just talk about one of my favorite moments came from that book in comics was when he met the Ultimate X-Men in a crossover. And it was just a single page. Well, it had a lead-off panel of Jean Grey talking to Peter as Spider-Man and saying, hey, we really appreciate you teaming up. And, you know, I'm a psychic, and I got to say, you're the first man I've ever talked to that didn't immediately imagine me naked.
Yeah.
Then you see a panel of Spider-Man's face. Then you see her. She goes, until now. He's like, hold on. And he's putting his hands on his head. Hold on. And he's fighting. You see her looking more uncomfortable every panel. He's like, there. He's like, okay, and then walks away. It was just a great interaction.
I mean, in fairness to Peter, when she brought it up, I mean,
Yeah, you can't not take it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great moment. That's probably, honestly, I think that's the last Bendis story I ever read was back in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Mine's a toss-up between his Avengers work and Alias. I love Jessica Jones. I love that character. I love what he did with Luke Cage and stuff. And either Avengers or New Avengers, I forget. He had
Mighty Avengers.
Mighty Avengers,
was
yeah.
when Luke Cage actually ran the Avengers, if that's the one you're talking about.
Possible. I mean, I've got them
He
all,
was on
so.
New Avengers forever, and I believe that Luke Cage was on that team.
Yeah,
as well, so
he did some really good work with those characters in that one. So yeah,
that's when he made
Yeah,
Squirrel Girl.
he did Mighty Avengers after Civil War with Frank Cho.
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking of? Possibly.
Well, then he made Squirrel Girl, Jessica and Luke's babysitter.
That's
He actually
right.
brought
Yeah,
Squirrel Girl back into the Marvel universe.
that's right.
Bendis wrote Civil War?
No,
No. After Civil War.
Bendis wrote Civil War 2. Mark Millar wrote the first Civil War.
Okay. I haven't read any Bendis since Ultimate Spider-Man.
So, you got a favorite Bendis, Jerry?
House of M, actually.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I just really like the mix-up on all the characters and just to see what the world would be like if it was more mutant superior, you know, than Homo superior.
And then the end of the mutants.
Yeah, it was a good storyline.
Nice.
I enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, so get ready for Man of Steel number 2. Sean, what'd you read this week, brother?
This week I read Savage Dragon number 234.
The saga continues.
It does. And I know I bring up Savage Dragon a lot because I love it so much. There were a lot of good books. It was actually tough to choose this one. I decided to go with this issue because it's a follow-up to the last one I talked about with the death of a major character.
No, I thought you picked it because it had booty on the cover.
There is a naked woman booty and side boob, classy as Larson ever gets, on this wonderful, wonderful cover. But if you remember the last time I talked about Savage Dragon, Malcolm Dragon's wife Maxine got electrocuted to death by her child that they just removed out of her body because it was already shocking her and putting her in danger. It literally opens up with Malcolm in the hospital bed after his last experience that put him in the hospital well, literally yelling, "Fuck that," after they told him about Maxine's death. And they bring back to a thing with when the original dragon, after he was defeated, when he got his memories back, I'm going into a lot of history into this, he was weakened, skinny, like he just wasn't regenerated. He got beaten so bad and lost some of his power they found out that he could get boosted back to his normal rate by a blood transfusion from Malcolm.
Okay.
And what that ended up causing, though, is unstabilized DNA. I forget the exact reasons why, but it ended up killing Dragon. That's how he officially died in the book. Like, it literally made him explode. His body couldn't maintain the other genes. So Malcolm, freaking out about his wife, has a doctor, and it's not an IV, but it's his blood in a bag and says, give it to her.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows the consequences of what could happen, but he's trying to save his wife. A lot of other things happen in this issue, like I said, I'm not going to get too deep. A lot of stuff happened in Dimension X with the alternate dimension with the other Rapture who had passed away. Lots of stuff going on there, but the big thing is they give Maxine a blood transfusion, and she's alive, and a dragon now.
Really?
She mutated.
Mutated, green with a fin on her head, but alive. But she knows what happened with the original dragon, so she's freaking out like this is a temporary cure. I'm gonna blow up. I'm gonna freak. I'm gonna die. And it's like they had been testing a serum trying to fix that problem.
Yeah.
It wasn't certain. So most of the issues, you get a nice family reunion, like the kids all coming in. The baby who was electrocuted is alive and well. So now that we have 4 baby dragons.
I mean, that's got to be your least favorite kid at this point. Like, if you're hurt, I know
But
you're
at
not
least
supposed
it's
to pick favorites.
It's her.
but-
It was. Here's the thing, though, that's crazy. Like if you remember right, the other ones came from a 4-way that
Right.
they had. This one is actually Maxine's child, which is
Right.
why I brought her up as a good mother. She's raising other women's kids.
Right.
But as soon as they hand the baby to her, you always hear like the doctor's holding her with gloves because it's shooting out electricity. Hand it to Maxine, calm, no electricity. Very nice moment. The other kids come in. They're all having a good time. Like I said, a lot of crazy shit happening over in the other dimension. Rapture's killing her own son, Michael, not Malcolm. The Malcolm dragon of an alternate dimension. He gets sliced up. Rapture gets killed. Back to the main reality. Do you remember a long time ago I talked about when Savage Dragon battled the killer sex bots?
Yes.
Well, they just came back with sex bot came back with a team, which led to a great moment of, Caleb is losing his shit, as he rightfully should.
Hashtag Team Sex Bot.
Team Sex Bots, bro. They're there for some loving and some violence. But the best part about this, what it leads to, is not only Maxine, being now that she's dragoned up, she can fight. She has the strength of the dragon. So she jumps in the fight, and the kids jump in and start whooping the shit out of these mechanical sex dolls. It is a beautiful, just see, I don't know, it tickled me so much seeing the kids that start whooping ass protecting their mom and dad. So
It warms your heart to see a toddler beat the hell out of a sex doll.
it's so
It's really good.
Starfire naked, and you went past that.
Oh, that's Starfire. That's Rapture.
Obviously, Rogue.
Yeah, full-blown frontal nudity, all that good stuff, as we've come to expect from Savage Dragon. But like I said, I'm focused on what I want to talk about. Go read the issue. It's a roller coaster, as most of Savage Dragon has been, especially here recently. But it is like Maxine starts. They take care of the robots. Maxine starts not feeling well. Malcolm's brother had come in. He had the experimental serum that was hoping to cure the explosion problem.
Explosy?
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
I like it.
Phrasing, the explosy problem.
I think that's what we call it from now
It's
on.
the explosy.
She's like she's not feeling well. Dragon stabs her with the needle. You see her go from green back to you. So in a comic where Eric Larson, he is not afraid to kill main characters. I'm still hoping for a she-dragon return. Because she has not been seen in a long time. But it looks like Maxine is saved. So and of course they have to go fuck in the hospital. She is now bald because her hair didn't grow back, but she lost her fin. So the camera crew that's been recording their reality TV show in Canada. Plus, then they told them to get the fuck out of here.
Tony Stark brought her back, and now she's bald.
And
With the help of Leonardo DiCaprio.
And it wraps up, like I said, the stuff in Dimension X, the girls that were in there. I think it is actually called Dimension X, even though I know that's been used in other books. I think it actually is called Dimension X. Battle Rapture, she killed Michael Dragon, the Malcolm Dragon of the alternate universe. The girls are fighting. Rapture ends up killing one of the girls, another main character. I mean, she is literally like just drained of all life.
Yeah.
Which which is also followed by Rapture getting her head completely smashed in and blood going everywhere. She was also killed by the end of this issue. Jennifer, that's who it was. Terrible name, much as I read these books. But just another good issue. It's, like I said, the violence, the family thing, which I'm really digging about Malcolm's story arc with his wife and the kids. And like I said, it was just, oh yeah, man.
It looks like Chris Jeriusa. It is Chris Jeriusa.
Yeah, he did
did the back cover.
There was actually he did a
little story. Very nice.
Yeah. So on the back of the book for the folks who can't see it, there is.
I don't usually talk about them because I read through them and it's not part of the main storyline. He usually throws in an extra little side comic done by other artists, or sometimes even by Larson himself. I didn't know who Chris Jeriusa was. I know very kind of Scotty Young-esque art style, which I liked.
He's been to a couple of local cons. He usually is teamed up with Jacob Shabbat.
Yeah, I was going to say Jacob Shabbat or even maybe Kyle Starks kind of thing.
The cool thing about it was, for those who have followed Seven Dragon, he did a variant cover a long time ago.
Nice.
For a different dragon. He did several of these, which I don't think these are all actual variants, but he just made more of them. It was just from the old school.
He just redid old covers in his own art.
Yep.
That's cool.
So, another good issue for me, like I said, is Savage Dragon.
You may have said it. What number are they up to on that? I missed that one.
This is issue 234.
234? I was going to say, I knew they were up there.
Yeah, it's still going strong.
I mean, you sold me, but I want an omnibus.
I understand. It's still...
they
honestly
did one for Spawn.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Like, we know very well that Dragon doesn't sell public. I don't know how Spawn's selling. I don't know if we can do number comparison. Everyone wants to look that up. I know they're saying Dragon only sells about 3,000 a month or less.
I've got to look. I think it's had a little bit of a bump because a lot of people are talking about it now. Like, seriously, I listened to, you said them earlier, Long Box podcast, the 11 O'Clock Comic podcast.
It's got a little bit of a bump because Sean is the only one promoting it.
No, actually, he dropped. I made comment on their Instagram, so almost every month, Longbox does at least comments on Seven Dragon. They are pivoted, and thank you guys if you do listen. Thank you for also spreading the word of the dragon, because I love this book. It's silly, it's violent, it's sexual, and I love every page that I read on it.
Nice.
Single-handedly keeping that book alive.
Damn right.
Well, Jerry has requested to go last, so I'm going to jump in here if that's cool.
Craig, I'm going to go play your PS4 while these two do their book reports on these comics.
Mine's actually not a book report this week. This is going to be probably one of the briefer ones I do because it's one of the bigger books, but it's probably going to be a briefer thing. So the book I want to talk about this week for the Smother'd Covered in Comics is actually not a single issue. It's an anthology that came out this past week. It's called Where We Live, and it's put out by Image. This is a benefit book for the survivors of the Las Vegas massacre. As you know, last year in Las Vegas at a Jason Aldean concert, a very sick, twisted piece of shit smuggled a bunch of AR-15s up to his hotel room and murdered 50-something people and shot over 500 people that were injured because of that, in yet again another mass shooting. So what this book is, there is a list of over 60 to 80 creators, I don't have a good count, that have dedicated their talent and their craft to this book. And this book is dedicated to the victims of gun violence, and the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds go to the victims of the Las Vegas shooting. And it's a way that comics gives back. Now, unfortunately, this is not the first of its kind. A year and a half ago, we had the Love is Love comic anthology series come out after the Orlando massacre at one of the gay nightclubs in Orlando, which it's a bar I've been to. It's a place I know. But this book was edited by Will Dennis. It was assisted by Michael Perlman. It was curated by Mr. J.H. Williams III and his wife, Wendy Wright Williams. The logo was designed by Todd Klein, and the book design was by Kerry Hall and Drew Gill. Again, it's published by Image. There is a beautifully written, heartfelt introduction to this book from J.H. Williams III, who, again, a phenomenal artist in his own right. Just not even in his own right. He's a phenomenal artist. He's got a long history in comics. He lives in Las Vegas. He tells you why to read this book better than I can, so I just want to read a short paragraph out of this, out of the introduction that he gives. There are a number of reasons to read this book. First and foremost is to help those in need. 100% of the proceeds of this volume will go to the victims of this terrible crime. The amount of funds raised by other various organizations has been very impactful, but it's not enough for the long-term needs of the survivors. While raising money is an important goal, another key reason to get some informative understanding and human perspectives of the problem and the issues around proliferations of gun and violence in America. We have a problem in this country, and I'm not going to get overtly political, so I don't want anybody to turn this off. I'm not here to tell you my personal opinions on our gun issue in this country, even though off the air sometime I could largely rant about it. A man murdered 50-something people and shot over 500 in a matter of 10 to 12 minutes. Those weapons should not be readily available in this country, and they are. You cannot turn the news on from week in, week out and not find out about a school shooting, a church shooting, a barbecue shooting, anything and everything. And it's sickening. And we're the only industrialized nation in the world that continually has this problem, and there are viable solutions to fix it. But this book is a collection of short stories, poems, one-page comics that are, some of them are written by the people who were there. Some of them are written by just comic creators who are there. You get books you get stories by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Michael Omi. You get a story drawn by our brother Justin Jordan, drawn by Tom Fowler. Mark Millar and Alex Sheikman do a story for this. Van Jensen, Eric Kim, Neil Gaiman and J.H. Williams III did a thing. You get some gorgeous art by Mike Mignola. You get Kelly Sue DeConnick and Joelle Jones, whose art has been on Batman that Sean's been loving. You get B. Clay Moore and Kelly Williams, who's a really good friend of ours in this. You get Josh Ellis, Jeff Lemire, Bernardo. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Ivan Brandon, Rob Williams, Kurt Busiek, J.M. DeMatteis, Mike Cavallero. All of these people, they are not making any money of this. They're not paying their bills with this. The money's going to help real life humans who are victims and who are dealing with the trauma of a terrible event, and one that is all too common around the world and in our country, and one that that we hope we will never hear about again. But I'm going to go home and put this book on the shelf next to my Love is Love anthology, and that gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. But it's even more stomach turning to realize that there's probably going to be another volume just like this getting stuck on the shelf because we readily haven't taken any viable steps to prevent this from happening again. Our legislature are quick to give out thoughts and prayers, but they're slow to do any type of viable action that's going to end this. I want to send out a great big thank you to all of the creators that donated their time, their efforts, their creativity, their art, their love in this book, because I've only made it about halfway through it, but it's taken me a long time to read it, because I challenge you to read this book and not shed a tear. And I don't care what your political perspective on guns are, on the Second Amendment. I mean, on this show, this is one of the great things about having opinions that are diverse on this show. Craig is largely a Second Amendment supporter, even though he agrees that we need to take real steps to stop this. I personally would like to see it wiped off the Constitution. But again, I challenge you not to read these stories and not to have a visceral, emotional reaction. This is not a book that's going to make you feel good. When I constantly say things about art, that art is not meant to leave you feeling happy all the time. There's art that does, and that art is wonderful. This art is going to evoke an emotion. It's going to make you feel things that you're likely not to feel good about feeling. It's going to make you question things. You get a number of perspectives. These are not stories that are 100% collected by bleeding heart liberals. There's a lot of conservative creators that threw their stuff into this and have their opinions on it, but they did it tastefully. They did it classily, to give you a really round perspective of what thoughts and reactions and emotions and opinions are surrounding this really terrible event. There's some wonderful poetry there. I don't know what else to say about this book other than get online, go to your local comic shop. This book is $19.99. It's over 306. Let's see, last page count. 319 pages of art. I think 322 pages after the afterword for $20. It's money well spent. It's $19.99 that's going to go to help people, help cover medical costs, help cover mental health costs, help cover a number of things that jump up. Y'all know I like these. I don't like them. I'm moved to read these type of stories that have real world connotations and speak to actual things a lot. Be them from LGBTQ themes to themes about violence to that kind of stuff. So this book was worth money. I ordered 2 copies just because it is a charitable donation. So yeah, that's what I got.
So I am a Second Amendment supporter, but I also believe that anybody that looks at the things that have been happening in our country over the past, I'm just going to say 5 years, it's been going on forever, but let's just talk about the last 5 years and the amount of shootings that have gone on. I am pro-responsible gun owners. The problem is there's a whole lot of stupid people that have guns, and there's a whole lot of people that have no business owning a gun that own guns. And there's got to be some conversation on how we get those guns out of the people's hands that have no business owning those guns, and how we keep the guns out of hands of people that are going to use them in this type of scenario. Until both sides are willing to sit down and talk. One side actively is, the other side is always saying, nope, this isn't the time. It's the time.
They'd rather protect their guns than protect people.
It's the time to talk about it. It's the time right now. There's never been a better time to talk about it. Let's find some sensible solutions to this. You're not protecting yourself from the tyrannical government. Get over that. That was the reason it was originally written. You are not going to be able to protect yourself from our government if they choose to turn on you. Get that out of your head, because it's just not a real thing. This book, and the Love is Love book, I hope we never have to see another one of them again. As Caleb said, the likelihood is we're going to, because we every time this happens, we do nothing to change anything in this country. We continue on down the same damn path we've been on for 200 years. The world's changed since the Constitution was written, and things change. It's time to have conversations and to come up with something new.
Yeah. So, and I did not mean for this to become a little black cloud over this episode of the podcast. We've had a lot of fun, but this did just come out.
It had to be talked about.
But it's real, and that's what we're not just talking about fantasies and the escapism of comics. Sometimes that kind of creative medium can be brought for real issues.
No, at the end of the day, this is comic creators giving back. This is comics. This thing that we love. This art form. This style of literature. This is it having a real impact on the world and the real impact of real lives of real people. And even if this was not necessarily something that would go to benefit gun violence, I love to see when comic creators go into children's hospitals and they do when and I'm going blank because I wasn't actually thinking about this, but when the kid who plays Spider-Man, when that guy goes into a children's hospital in a Spider-Man outfit and just makes these kids' day, when football players and NFL teams go to nursing homes and just chat, things that we love giving back to the community. You guys know I'm really big with the van. Whenever I find people that are willing to like have real conversations and go out and speak to people who live outside, just to give them that moment of well, I don't have to think about how bad my life is right now. That stuff means a lot to me. So again, order this book. Go buy it.
Well, you
it's great.
5 or 6 people's names in that book that we personally know that are good people that have donated their time and their energy to that book, all to help victims. Every penny of it. I'm assuming that I don't know if Image is eating the price of the publishing and printing or not. I would assume they are, since the creators ate their price. I would say at least 90% of it's going directly to the victims of this tragedy, and support people where you can. This is a way you can support this tragedy without We know some of the other people that take donations for this sort of thing. Without naming names, they tend to keep a good portion of the money that's donated and pay their people that run at extravagant salaries.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something where it's going to the people.
And not only that, but you get something for your donation for this. Right. You get something. So I can get online and I can donate money and not receive anything of it. But if you want something tangible, you get that with it. You get over 320 something full color, gorgeously drawn, incredibly written, touching pages of art. Yep. In a well put together, well designed collection.
It's more pages than you normally get for a $20.
Yeah, a lot more pages. So that's my spiel. Where We Live, a benefit for the survivors of the loss in Las Vegas. Long list of creators, really well done. $20, $19.99. Go get it. Go. If it's something that maybe you have too much of emotion to see on your shelf, get it and stick it in the back of your closet so you don't have to ever look at it again. But get it. Go get it. So also, don't be a piece of shit and go get this signed by a bunch of people that helped work on it and then flip it on eBay, because I've seen the Love Is Love comic on eBay being sold for astronomical prices by people who went and got it signed by creators that donated their time and energy to do that. You're a garbage human being, and I'm not going to say, I'm not pulling any punches with this. If you are a person who would flip this book, go. I'm not going to say what I want to say. Fuck you. Fuck you in the most possible way with a razor blade wrapped dildo. Go fuck yourself. You're a shitty, terrible human. So, all right, Jerry.
There's your episode of Lance Rants. My favorite this week.
So the comic I read this week was Spider-Man 800. I was actually really hard pressed in what to read because, as Sean and Craig had said, a lot of good stuff came out this week. Doomsday Clock was fantastic. The Realm came back.
I almost picked Realm,
but it is the finale of the Go Down Swinging arc in Spider-Man, issue 800, and I want to say 801 is Dan Slott's last issue of Spider-Man before the new creative team pops in.
Ryan Otley.
Yeah. I will say that I'm not a normal Spider-Man reader. I kind of jump in and out of it. I'm more, a fan of his other crew that pops up. Namely Flash Thompson. If you want to go back and read them or listen to the Memorial Day special, you'll understand that. That's the whole reason why I popped up into this book, because following Venom Inc., Flash had gotten the anti-Venom suit, and he has been put into Amazing Spider-Man. So to get you caught up, this, since it is issue 800, they did 80 pages, and it's a whole slew.
And Jerry's going to read you every page.
Yes.
Buckle up.
I think I did a good job of summarizing, but I really like how they did it because they did it by chapters, and each chapter has a different creative team. Of course, Dan Slott writes all of them, and VC's Joe Caramagna.
If Jared just mispronounced your name, feel free to come on this podcast and fight him about it.
That's never going to get old.
So diving right in, I'll read the little synopsis at the beginning to get everybody caught up. Spider-Man's greatest enemy, Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, has merged with Spider-Man's most terrifying enemy, Carnage, to become the Red Goblin. This merciless monster kidnapped and tortured Peter's recent confidant, J. Jonah Jameson, who slipped up, revealing Spider-Man's secret identity. When Peter found himself face to face with the Red Goblin, he left the fight so injured he couldn't walk. Some of Spider-Man's best friends and allies, Miles Morales, the Human Torch, Silk, and Clash, jumped in to help, but the Red Goblin seems to have no weaknesses, and Spidey's friends were nearly killed. The only thing that saved them was the healing touch of Flash Thompson with Agent Anti-Venom. This touch also turned out to be the only thing that seemed to hurt the Red Goblin. Because since he has the Goblin Serum mixed in with it, it basically nulls his weaknesses to fire and vibration.
Oh.
Flash used almost all of his special ability to heal Peter's injured leg, knowing Spider-Man is their only hope. So Peter Parker is suited up and ready to fight the Red Goblin. Everything he's got or go down swinging. And I will say, like, it's kind of interesting to see, like, the whole dynamic with this team, and Flash is like the healer, and he's like, shit, stop dying. And he came in to help the rest of the team and was trying to heal people while, you know, the big boss, the Red Goblin, just fucking wailed on him and fucked him up really bad. Like, the anti-venom serum is basically leaking off of him. So luckily, these are written down delusions, 9.5 page article that I wrote last night.
So while he's putting his paper together, Jerry got drunk last night and then wrote this.
I got productive as fuck. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume, like, 4 or 5 pages into this, it's gonna get pretty bad, and my handwriting is atrocious. So bear with me, folks.
It's okay. I read the book too, so I can jump in and help out.
Just jump in. Another thing they didn't mention at the thing at the beginning was Norman was there attacking Harry and his family because they were trying to get the fuck out of Dodge. After he basically beat the shit out of all of Spider-Man's friends, he went and abducted Normie Osborn and put the Carnage shit on him too, turning him into a child Red Goblin, which is pretty fucking terrifying. So, luckily, thanks to Flash and Anti-Venom, Flash, Silk, Miles Morales, and Johnny Storm are okay. He even managed to heal Peter's leg, but it drained a lot of the Anti-Venom out of him. Peter's going to go after Norman alone. Silk stops him to tell him J. Jonah Jameson can help, but after he revealed Pete's identity, Peter says that he's done enough already. He's basically fed up with his involvement in this whole situation. Flash wants to go, but Spider-Man orders him to stand down and look after the rest of the team. And Spider-Man actually gets the idea, like, oh shit, the anti-venom serum hurt Red Goblin, hurt Norman. So he gets this idea in his head to go get more of it. Spidey runs into Harry and Liz and finds out Norman took the grandson, Normie, which, if you have a psychotic killing father, why would you name your kid after him? Like, after all that's said and done,
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Because Normie Osborn was created long before the Norman Osborn was.
I wasn't privy to that information.
Was as horrible as he was.
So Spidey talks to the head of security for Alchemex, Raxton, and gets a lead on anti-venom that they've kind of sort of hidden away that they're not supposed to have. And then Harry and Liz, after Spidey leaves, Harry and Liz hatch a plan, and he sends his son Stanley off with his reunited mother, which I didn't know anything about that, but if you're married to someone like Norman Osborn, I could imagine that you would want to run away. Meanwhile, we shoot over to J. Jonah, and he's looking for ways to help Pete. He pulls out a gun, and he's like, what the fuck is this going to do, against Norman? This is just ridiculous. So he's like, what else can I do? Who else can I bring to help? So he pops in with the idea of like, oh, Venom, let me find Venom. He's like, but who could Venom be? And then he thinks of Eddie Brock, and he's like, surely it isn't Eddie Brock. Peter snuck under my nose with this Spider-Man persona for years, and then he finds out that, okay, it's Eddie Brock. He's even calling himself Mr. Sim now, and he runs his own kind of information paper type thing. So he essentially calls him and blackmails him into going in and helping Spider-Man in one way or another. I'd like to also add that this is before the new current volume of Venom. So that after... What's up?
Well, I just want to address that when he called them, he goes, oh, how do you say your first name? Is it Bio?
Yeah.
Correcting the whole Venom.
Taking a shot at that movie.
Yeah.
Shots fired. Yeah. So then we go over to Chapter 2, Too Many Targets. Spidey makes it to Alchemex, only to discover Norman has already been there and killed everyone and destroyed the anti-venom serum. And then he also left some surprises for him, which were in the shape of his new Carnage pumpkin bombs, which he can apparently speak through. So he basically tells him like he fucked up getting involved, and that now he's going to kill MJ and Aunt May. And
the pumpkin bombs are Bluetooth speakers.
Yes, essentially. they talk through him. That's actually how he injured his leg, because he threw him at Peter, and it was before Peter realized, like, oh shit, these things are sentient because they have carnage on them, and it bit his leg and blew up, so that's why his leg was
Never mind, Dan Slott can fix Iron
Man. Yeah. So, anyway, they give him this message like, oh yeah, MJ, Aunt May, they're totally fucking dead, and then they blow up and they slam him into a wall. We shoot over to Stark Tower with MJ. This is unknown if this is before or after she shot one of, was it Tony's parents?
Yeah, I don't know where it takes place in the chaos of Iron Man.
She's been working at Stark Tower and apparently has a really high up there position.
Yeah, she's his personal assistant.
Personal assistant. Okay, so something bursts through the window and she thinks that it's Osborn. And so she runs this whole security protocol, which starts up like some low-level vibration and fire, and it ends up being Eddie Brock, his Venom. So as this is going on, Norman flies to the window and he's like, oh shit, somebody left a beacon on for me. So I guess I know exactly where to go. So he comes in, and him and Venom get into it. And Mary Jane's just like, oh shit, what's going on? And Eddie's just like, can you please shut that off so I can help you? And so she reluctantly decides to shut it off. So they start getting into it. Then we shoot over to Aunt May's apartment, and she's got a visitor. Somebody's knocking on the door. It ends up being Normie, which at first I thought this was a little weird, but then later I found out that apparently Peter is Normie's godfather, right? So they know each other, but he just pretty much said that he got lost. So while she's turning around to go get her phone to call his parents, he's about to jump and attack her when all of a sudden these metal tentacles burst through a window and snatch him up. And surprise, it's Doc Ock, which Superior Spider-Man was fucking great. Now, I don't know if they've shown him since this. I know that you mentioned something about that whole Ben Reilly arc that they did, that he got a new body from that. He's wearing a costume, so at first I was kind of concerned that maybe it was like some kind of like robot or something. But he still retains some of the memories of Peter Parker's childhood and May's bringing up.
Peter has some of Doc Ock's
And
memories.
so he's like vowed to protect Aunt May. And
also, so to throw this out there was an issue years ago where Doc Ock married Aunt May.
Yeah, I
always
remember
loved
that.
her. So
the interesting thing, he's actually got a costume on now, and it looks a lot like sort of Spider-Man-esque design, white, black. It's green, and he's got his old Doc Ock trench coat and the tentacles. So at first, Aunt May's like, "What the fuck? You know, get your hands off this kid!" And then he's like, "Oh no, this isn't any mere child." And that's when Normie transforms into a goblin child and goes to attack. Then we shoot back over to Stark Tower, and Spidey's just now catching up to Norman, and he sees like the building is like smoking, and then he comes in and he's like, what the fuck, what is Venom doing here? And then he goes up to MJ and he's like, oh, you need to get out of here. And she's like, oh no, this is the one place I can fight. So she straps on a repulsor glove, and he's like, where the hell did you get that? And she's like, okay.
She was trained by Blade.
Yeah. Was she? and Leonardo da Vinci.
Well, so MJ has also been Tony Stark's secretary or personal assistant, for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's not incapable.
So, Spidey ends up teaming up with Venom, and they go and start attacking Norman together. Peter's thinking to himself, like, how the fuck, there's no anti-Venom, how am I going to defeat him? And then he kind of comes to this epiphany, like, oh, he's still got to breathe, so I'll destroy his airwave. Well, then Goblin kind of catches on and is like, oh, yeah, fuck that, and he bites his arm. And whenever he latches on, MJ shoots the repulsor glove, and it knocks back Spidey and Venom, and Norman is seemingly unharmed. He's like, oh, I've got a clear shot, so he shoots at MJ, and then he goes to leave, and as he's on his way out, Spidey's like, "Oh, where's Norman? What'd you do with him?" And that's when Norman tells him, "Oh, he went to go visit Aunt May. She's probably dead by now." And he flies out, and Spidey figures out, like, fuck, whenever he bit my arm, he destroyed my web shooter on that arm. So at that point, like, during Venom, Brock was having a lot of problems, like, controlling and utilizing the Venom symbiote. So he actually decides, like, because he's been, trying to turn over a new leaf and be a hero and stuff. So he decides, like, here, take the Venom symbiote. It'll make you stronger and faster. Which, we discussed before, like, oh, in issue 800, he's going to get the black suit back. So this is how it happens. So he gets the suit back and goes after Norman. We shoot over to a hospital where Flash has the rest of the team, and they're all really badly hurt. He's trying to keep them stabilized and yelling at doctors to come and help him. And they've got all these, like, spikes and shit in them from Norman. He runs into Shashan, which is actually dates back to her his time in Vietnam. They start taking off. The doctors start taking off the mask, and he yells at them like, "Oh no, we have to protect their secret identities." Cut through the material. Clash starts having a weird reaction, so they start tending to him. We swing back over to Spider-Man getting a call from J. Jonah, who's wearing a really weird helmet for some reason, and he mentions that he sent Venom to go protect MJ, and he's like, "Oh, it's cool. I'm going to help Aunt May." So we get to get back over to Doc Ock fighting Goblin Child. May hits the kid with a chair and is like, "Oh, after all the things I did for you, I baked you cookies," and he yells and says that there's raisins in them, which I mean,
that'll make you kill somebody.
So then someone yells from outside and bursts through the wall, and it's J. Jonah and a Spider Slayer. Like, he's not in it, but he's controlling it remotely with the helmet that he was wearing. So he attacks Doc Ock and Goblin, not knowing that Doc Ock's there to help. At that point, Norman shows back up and just starts fucking everybody up, and he's looking at May, and he's essentially about to leave Peter a message. Pete gets there, passes them on the way, and he gets in and he sees Norman all busted up inside of the Spider Slayer.
I
and
thought you forgot you had notes for a minute.
Well, I know, but the writing the notes down helped me
Jerry writes
remember.
5 pages of notes.
Listen, dude,
and then
I've
goes
read
page
this
by page.
I've read this like 4 times.
You've read this so much that the front
Yeah.
cover has your fingerprints just embedded into it.
So whenever he gets to Maze, the bot is all fucked up, and Jonah's telling him that he's sorry wasn't enough. Peter's pissed, so he smashes the head of it. Whenever he gets to May, it turns out Ock threw himself in front of the spikes before they hit May, and he took the blow. So then Peter is like, "Oh, yeah, I gotta find him," and he said he had business to handle. So it turns out that Norman was wanting to go after Alchemax, which Liz owns, and he's hatched this plan to use Normie to get control of the company, which it used to be Oscorp. That's whenever we start chapter 3, family and fighting. They de-symbiote, or however you want to say it, and he's talking about how he's going to take the company over legally. Liz mentions, "Oh yeah, here's all the paperwork, but there's no way I could even you could even hand this company over, with weeks or months or even years." And he's like, "What do you think this is? What do you think this is, Parker Industries?" Because he just lost his company like that. So he decides, like, "Oh, I'm going to take it violently," and goes to attack whenever she pops up with this plan that her and Harry had, where a door opens up and Harry's on a goblin glider and he has all these robots. So they go off and attack. Norman, Harry grabs Normie, and he's trying to help him come to his senses. Norman grabs Liz and is like, "Oh, it's always a blonde, and it's always, dropping, from high places."
Oh,
so he
went there.
Yeah, he's like, "I wonder what it is with me and blondes in high places."
that's not cool.
And he fucking throws her out the window.
That hurts my soul.
At that point, Normie comes to and he's like, "Oh shit, they're killing my parents." And one of the things with Normie, because I was like, what's the motivation going on here? Yes, he's been twisted by the symbiote, but they also have a younger child, and he's very envious of all the attention that the younger child is getting. So I think that really fueled his motivation for wanting to go against them. Well, suffice to say, Spider-Man gets there just in time, saves Liz, and swings in. Then Normie goes to attack Osborn because he's like, "You just tried to kill my mom." Osborn's going to attack Normie, and of course Spider-Man stops him. Harry flies the Goblin glider into Norman, which is how he originally died back in the day, was being impaled by his glider. But of course, since he's super strong, he doesn't die from that this time. We see a little scene with Liz and Harry getting to Normie and trying to help him and comfort him, and the Goblin Carnage symbiote goes out of him, and then we get to Spider-Man and Goblin fighting at the end, and we're on Chapter 4, Goblin Triumphant. They're flying, and Spider's like, "Oh, this was your master stroke. You basically did nothing. You said you were going to kill everybody, and you barely even scratched them." And Norman reveals "Oh, you don't even know." So he reveals that what he's been doing this whole time, he's been shooting these needles into all of his friends and family, and it's been putting a virus in him that at the flick of a dime or drop of a dime, he could send right into their brain. And so he snaps his fingers, and nothing happens. He doesn't feel any of the anguish or pain at all from any of them. And he tries to figure out why. Well, then Flash comes in, and he's like, "Oh, something happened with Clash, and I found that. So then I just started tracing my the footsteps of Norman and all he's fought." Norman comes in, shoots his glider, capturing Spidey, and then he's pissed, and he goes after Flash. Flash is destroying his, at this point, he's used the anti-venom serum so much on people that it's just in pieces. You can see where he doesn't have his legs, and it's just his prosthetics, and he's barely holding it together. Norman attacks him, and he's burning away the Carnage symbiote from him, but he's wearing the Goblin costume underneath it. So he's like, the great thing about being Carnage Goblin hybrid is I still have all my old tech. So he starts beating the shit out of Flash with his electric gauntlets, and Pete freaks out, Venom's out, and destroys the Goblin glider, and rushes in and just punts the shit out of Norman, far away. Flash calms him down and tells him, you have to get to him, hurry up. And
we're on page 20, people.
Seemingly looks like he passes away.
Yeah, not to be rude, but we're about 20 minutes in on this book. Just in general, what's the takeaway from this? By the end of it,
I was just getting to Flash Thompson dying.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for interrupting that. So anyway, we get through all of this. Goblin realizes that he could just kill anybody. It doesn't have to be someone close to him, and it would hurt Peter. They get into it. Peter's trying to save people. Peter convinces him that if he wins this fight, it'll be the Carnage symbiote and Cletus Cassidy that officially get the win, get the kill. So he rips the Carnage symbiote off. Peter lets the Venom symbiote go, and they fight mano a mano. They go at it for a while. Peter finally gets the upper hand, remembering all of his friends and family that taught him things, and then, remembers what Flash taught him, and with his sacrifice. And before he can, completely get him, he tries to pull the Carnage symbiote back, and Peter drops a flaming motorcycle on it and explodes it. It was trying to attach to Norman right at the last moment, so it basically fried his brain, almost made him brain dead. Jonas steps in to to shoot Norman to finally end all this madness. And Peter jumps in the way of the bullet, saying, like, this is not how this story ends. At the end, we see Norman in an insane asylum, and he's laughing. He says he knows Peter's secret identity. Turns out he thinks that Spidey's secret identity is Norman Osborn, and he's Cletus Cassidy. Some weird mix-up with the symbiote. They get a bit with Normie getting the symbiote taken out of him, and whenever you think it's all wrapped up, you see a little bit of that red glint in his eye. Then it wraps up with the funeral of Flash Thompson and a eulogy by Peter, which was really fucking heartfelt in my book. And it pretty much ends with sirens going. Peter's about to apologize or forgive Jonah for everything that's happened, and sirens sound, and Jonah just looks at him like, "What are you waiting for? Go!" And it ends with a really great 2-page scene of Spidey swinging away, chasing the danger.
It's a really good way to end it, especially with the art being called "Going Down Swinging."
Yeah. They had one little tidbit of somebody new joining New Horizon, and it ends up being Doc Ock in his new body, but nobody knows who he is, of course. So
yeah,
there's stuff that's going on for that. That was my drunken ravings of a madman.
Well, tell me
from last night.
So I mean, besides the panel by panel of it, like what did you think about this? Like, what's your opinion on it largely?
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I was really worried that they were going to do this to Flash. Like, fucking love the character. I love all of the progress that he's made over the years. I heard from some people, like, there was a letter in the back saying, like, "Oh, why are you just beating symbiotes to death?" But having Carnage and Green Goblin together that's a pretty ferocious villain, and I feel like it was worthy of that storyline.
Yeah. And let's be honest, and granted, I haven't been on an Amazing Spider-Man book in a long time, but really, the symbiotes and Venom bring a lot to Spider-Man's stories.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he's been battling the same awesome villains for a long time. Like you said, you took Carnage and Goblin, mixed them together, that made an amazing villain.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, people say they're getting tired of it. It's overkill. There's enough variety, I think, in the symbiotes where we can still kind of mix them in like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
I don't think they're overdone. They don't bring them in all the time. They bring them in on occasion. They're not really overdone. What people may be complaining about is that we've got the Venom book, we've got Venomverse, we've got all these other things going on. But within Spider-Man itself, the symbiotes have actually been almost not around for a long time now.
Right.
So this is actually the first Spider-Verse symbiote story, Spider-Man versus symbiote story in a long time. I thought it was a unique take on the symbiotes and how you can combine a symbiote with another superpowered being and create something super strong that had none of the weaknesses, because Peter still had weaknesses when he's wearing the Venom suit. So.
Sorry, literally just a random bit of video game knowledge popped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Spider-Man 2 on PS1. The final boss was Doc Ock with the Carnage suit.
Mm-hmm.
It had to chase you through the city.
Yep.
Sorry, randomly
Fucking
popped in my
ridiculous.
head. Yeah.
They've even had Venom's been attached to Matt Gargan for a while too, which was that was a pretty good run. Thunderbolts and Siege, or the Avengers after Siege. But the whole thing with Flash and dying, they could easily bring him back because the anti-venom serum heals. I'm kind of on the fence about if I want it, because then that would mean that his death meant nothing.
They'll bring him back in the
Yeah, it's comic
not
book.
gonna be the same.
I mean, and they
They've
mentioned Gwen Stacy and what that did to Peter as well, and they've kind of brought her back in Spider-Gwen.
No,
So,
I mean, at least it's an alternate reality, Gwen Stacy. So the thing about this book is being, maybe the resident Spider-Man fan in the group. I feel like that's how you do an 800 issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially when it's an 800 culminating in the end of a decade-long tenure
run.
on book.
Longer than that for
Yeah.
him, but it's the way to go out. It's aptly named Going Out Swinging, and that's what Dan Slott did.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe been my favorite story art from Dan Slott in a long time. He's a great writer. He's been on Spider-Man too long.
Mm-hmm.
this is maybe been my favorite since the Superior Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, the Superior Spider-Man stuff is really well done. I think he's been on it for 5 years. That's what they say.
No,
here,
he's been
or
on
more
it
than
since
that.
like 2007.
Yeah, he's been on it for over
10 years.
yeah, over a decade.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the past few issues have gone over very well, but until that, there was a long time when a lot of longtime Spider-Man fans were getting very stale. Let's call it stale.
Yeah.
I was buying it, not reading every
Right.
story arc. I would see what the story arc was about and read it because he had turned Spider-Man into Tony Stark basically. So
I have a question about this though, and it's kind of in conjunction with the art. When did they turn Aunt May in this to Aunt May from the movies?
They did.
now
like-
she's still super old.
Yeah.
But she looks so much younger than that. Like she doesn't have any like if she's
It's
still
Marvel,
super old.
they do that, but
Yeah, she's gotten Botox. She ain't got no wrinkles. There's not a liver spot to be seen.
You think they turned her into Aunt Milf?
Yeah, so, I mean, she definitely is not Marissa Tomei in this, but she still looks like a lot younger.
Marvel has an issue of trying to make their comic characters look more like the movie characters over time. They do.
Yeah.
So, there's a little bit of that going on probably, but I still feel like it's more Aunt May and less Marissa Tomei. So,
Okay.
Again, I thought it was a great wrap up. I thought the artwork was good. There was one little spot when they first showed Spider-Man in the black suit where his eyes just didn't look
And they
quite
did it
right.
a few times. And that was Roberto Ramos that was doing the art at that
it was
point.
really weird.
It looked like his eyes were like hovering above his head.
Yeah,
little strange.
which is really weird because Ramos does a very good Spider-Man, but they tried to show him more Venom-like, I think, because he was kind of enraged at that moment.
Right.
So, overall,
exaggerating.
just a fantastic book. It was a way to go out. No
And
complaints on my end from it.
now we're getting Spencer and Otley.
Now we're getting Spencer and Otley. The big thing there is Otley for me.
Dan Slott's going to Iron Man.
Well,
Clean up Bendis.
Yeah.
Wonderful ending.
Well, all right. Well, this is the portion to where we take a moment to kind of get ahead of ourselves. There were some great books that came out last week, but there's a lot more coming out next week. So why don't we talk about what we're excited about to see hitting the shelves this Wednesday?
On my end, they've got a lot of Marvel #1s coming out that are going to be.
Do not read all the novels.
I'm not. The one I'm most excited about though is Ant-Man and Wasp. It's going to have Mark Waid and Jay Garin on it. I'm hyped enough about the movie, so I will totally take a Mark Waid Ant-Man and Wasp comic. Last issue of Dr. Star also comes out this week as well, so things to look forward to.
To no surprise to anyone, Batman #48 comes out Wednesday. New story arc called The Best Man. Stuff going on still involved.
Mr. Gold, isn't it?
Yeah, so he's now the best man of their wedding. No, but while Batman and Catwoman are contemplating maybe changing up the wedding a little bit, Joker shows his head.
Of course.
So
As they do.
I'm excited for a Joker arc with, of course, the great Tom King and Michael Shannon writing and drawing the story.
So Deadpool volume number 800, issue number 1 comes out. I don't know what volume it is. It seems like they restart Deadpool
I think
every
they're at 7. to be honest.
Anyways, I've been kind of over Deadpool for a minute, but I'm really excited about Scotty Young writing it. And then the other one is Doctor Strange.
Volume 6.
Volume 6. Doctor Strange is starting over, which I have like a love-hate with Doctor Strange. Like I want to love Doctor Strange, but the books have never like kept me entertained.
Never lived up to it.
They just haven't for me. Now I know that some people, but Mark Waid's writing them, so I'm looking forward to that.
Quick question. I'm very familiar with Scotty Young's art. I love it.
Mhm.
Have you read any of his writing before?
Yeah.
Yes.
He wrote
I
Rocket,
Hate
right?
Fairyland. And he did Rocket Raccoon.
Okay,
But he's doing I Hate Fairyland, and if he does Deadpool in that same kind of style, I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I absolutely
I had a
agree.
question about I've really known him as an artist. I didn't realize he was writing I Hate Fairyland.
Most, not all, most of the stuff that you've seen as art on, he's also written. Yeah,
He
not
does-
all, but
I might
he
be
does
checking out
covers.
I might check that Deadpool out.
And And the books that I'm going to get ahead of myself and look forward to, we are getting, we are getting Justice League #1. It's Volume 4, #1. It's going to be written by Scott Snyder and Jim Chung. Jim Chung being inked by Mark Morales, which is huge. That team up is insane. And the other book is, let me scroll down to where my Marvel stuff is. Here we go. I'm right here. We are getting, I'm going to cut this out. The Immortal Hulk #1. It's by Alex Ross has been the cover of this. Al Ewing and Joe Bennett are drawing this. We're taking the Hulk back to his horror roots, and I'm really, really excited about that. The Hulk works really well as that kind of scary character. So I think I'm excited.
Awesome.
So, well, guys,
Mr. Right.
yeah. Do we have any? Right. That's and the Frankenstein's monster. Do we have any last minute business we need to cover up and let go?
Good.
All right. Well, you're going to hear something different at the end of this episode than what normally we have our closeout music. This past week's been kind of a rough week. One of my best friends passed away. He was a very talented musician. So what you're going to hear this week, instead of our regular closeout music, you're going to hear my friend, my brother, Caleb Jib Shaner covering Wicked Game. It's song by Chris Isaacs. So go forth, love your friends, and love some comments.
Make me